I was hauling hay bales with my gloves off when I heard it. A scream. Not just any scream, but one so sharp, so high-pitched it cut through the hot Texas air like a gunshot. My heart dropped straight into my stomach and I dropped the pitchfork. I bolted across the ranch, my feet kicking up dust, my chest tight as I ran. The scream, it was coming from the old barn. The barn I had locked. The barn with the basement. Now let me back up a second before you start panicking. Hank wasn't some guy trapped in the barn screaming for his life. No. Hank is a bear. A full-grown, live, breathing grizzly bear. And he wasn't just any bear. He's the bear I rescued as a cub after a flood washed him up from a nearby wildlife reserve. He was injured, starving, abandoned, and I couldn't just leave him to die. So I brought him back to my place, built him a space underneath my barn, got him vet care, and made sure everything was legal. He wasn't a pet. He was a permanent rescue. The rule, don't enter the barn unless I'm there. Period. And guess who broke that rule? Yep, HOA, Karen. I could already see her from across the field as I ran, hair puffed up like a cotton ball, phone and hand camera aimed at the barn and high heels in the dirt of all things, screaming her lungs out. She was halfway down the stairs into the cellar and Hank was growling. Now Hank, he doesn't attack unless he feels threatened, but he was scared. And when he's scared, well, you don't want to be anywhere near him. I could see him rising up on his hind legs, his massive form half lit by a dusty light bulb, a low rumble coming from deep in his chest. "Don't move! Do not move!" I screamed, but I was too late. The latch on the cellar door snapped shut, trapping her inside. And me, I was racing to get to her. Now let me introduce myself. I'm Noah Jacobs. I'm 41, retired from being a forest ranger, and now I run this ranch out in rural Texas. It's not much, but it's mine. 16 acres passed down from my grandfather. I grow my own food, raise a few animals, and have solar panels on the roof. My peace is everything. That is until HOA Karen showed up. See, I'm not even in the HOA. My land's independent. But the folks from the Sunset Valley Estates Development thought they should start enforcing their rules on everybody in the area, even if they weren't part of the HOA. They had a dress code, lawn schedules, even a color for the mailboxes. Enter Karen Monroe, blonde bob, red lips, always dressed like she was about to walk down a runway even just to get the mail. She called herself the president of the Sunset Valley HOA, even though I don't live there. So when I put up a sign on my property, private property, no trespassing, she marched onto my land the very next day. She didn't just cross the line, she stomped on it. "You need to remove that sign," she said, looking down at me like I was some kind of peasant. "It's an eyesore." I told her politely, "Ma'am, this isn't HOA property. You don't make the rules here." She scoffed and said, "Oh, we'll see about that." And from there it escalated. Letters taped to my gate, anonymous reports to animal control, the whole 9 yards. And then last week I saw her on the camera photographing my barn like it was some government secret facility. That should have been my sign to confront her, but I was raised to pick my battles. I didn't think she'd actually come this far. So there I was, minding my business, doing chores, when I noticed something odd, fresh tire tracks around the barn. Not my truck, not the delivery van. These were fresh, narrow tracks from a little SUV, and they led straight to the barn. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is supposed to go near that barn. The only person who has a key, me. Only I know the hidden latch that opens the basement door. And now Karen's down there trapped, screaming. Hank's still growling. She's frozen halfway down the stairs, her phone slipping out of her hand, tumbling down toward Hank's paws. "What is that thing?" she screamed, shaking like a leaf. "Is that a real bear?" I'm racing to the door, yelling at her. "Back away slowly. Don't scream. Don't run. Just stay calm." But it's already too late. She's panicked, stomping her foot. I can hear the floorboards creaking under Hank's massive weight. That's when he steps forward, still not attacking, but a deep rumbling growl rolls from his chest. I'm at the door now, and with one yank, I pull the latch free, burst through, and head straight down the stairs. I can hear Karen's voice again. "Open this door," she shrieked, stomping her foot once more. I shot back. "Lady, you're lucky he hasn't eaten your phone." With a final grunt, Hank stepped back, letting me lead Karen up the stairs. She bolted out the second she hit daylight, spinning around to face me, pointing a finger. "This is not over. I'm pressing charges," she yelled. "You endangered my life." "On my property," I shot back. Where you trespassed, where you broke a locked door after I told you to stay away, so if anyone's lucky here, it's you." She didn't have much to say after that, though. She stormed off to her shiny Lexus heels caked in mud and sped off. I stood there shaking my head and muttered under my breath, "Good riddance." The next morning I wake up to flashing lights. 2 animal control trucks, a sheriff's cruiser, and Karen Monroe, arms crossed, smirking like she had already won. She'd brought backup, all right. "You've got 5 minutes to open the gate," the sheriff said, his tone flat. I didn't budge. "On what grounds?" Karen piped up. "You're harboring a dangerous wild animal." I laughed. "A dangerous wild animal that's been living here peacefully for 6 years. Sounds like a personal problem." I went inside, grabbed the papers, and handed them to the officer. "Here. Hank's legal paperwork. Vet reports, licenses, microchips, the works. The bear's not illegal." I didn't know what I expected, but when the animal control officer flipped through Hank's file, she just looked up and said, this is one of the best records I've seen." That's when Karen's smile slipped. But she wasn't done. Not yet. She demanded that I be charged with illegal wildlife housing, even though I had all the proof that everything was above board. Then the sheriff asked her, "So you trespassed on his property?" Karen blinked. Then the sheriff added, "And broke a lock." I leaned against the fence. "This is private property, and I have cameras that say you were here without permission. You should have stayed on your own land, Karen." Her face turned bright red. "You people think you can do anything you want out here," she muttered. But the sheriff stepped forward. "Ma'am, you're trespassing. We're closing this case." So Karen had no choice but to storm off, but this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, I get a cease and desist from the HOA's legal department claiming I violated safety ordinances. They weren't giving up, and I wasn't about to let them win. The war was just starting.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.